Hey everyone, welcome back to the Foundry by Forge College. Today we're jumping right into our explainer on the mechanics of gasless transactions and sponsorship models. So, if you were with us for our last chat on user-centric design, you already know that gasless onboarding is basically the holy grail of Web3 UX, right? Well, today we're going to pop the hood and see exactly how the engine works.
Now you might be wondering, we know gasless onboarding is amazing for users, but it brings up a really massive mechanical mystery. If the user isn't paying that network fee, well, whose wallet is actually getting drained? Gas is a fundamental rule of the blockchain, It's definitely not free. So somebody, somewhere, has to pay the toll.
Here are our schematics for today. First, we'll cover the gasless magic trick, then the Web3 post office, third, mechanics and security, and finally, real-world wallet UX. All right, starting with part one, the gasless magic trick, where we separate intent from execution.
So the core principle of gas abstraction is splitting a transaction into two totally separate operations. You've got authorization and you've got on-chain submission. Normally, these happen at the exact same time, but here, we break them apart. Notice how this completely redefines what a transaction even is. Instead of a final broadcasted transaction, the user just signs a meta transaction. It's kind of like a sealed envelope that holds their intent, the method, and their signature. And because this envelope isn't going straight to the blockchain from their device, it literally removes any need for them to hold ETH to pay for gas. They're just signing the permission slip.
Okay, moving on to part two, the Web3 post office.
To really wrap our heads around this without drowning in code, let's use a mental model. This is going to be your best friend when designing these systems. Let me introduce our cast of characters. First up, the relayer. They act as the courier. They take your envelope, submit it on-chain, and pay the upfront gas cost. Then we have the sponsor or paymaster. They're basically the accounting office, funding the reimbursement so our poor courier doesn't go completely bankrupt. And finally, the forwarder contract. Think of them as a super strict, unyielding clerk verifying IDs, completely gas-free, just making sure the signature is actually legit.
Let's map out the chronological journey here. It flows so cleanly from the sender's intent to the subsidized execution. First, the sender signs the letter. Second, our courier picks it up. Third, the clerk verifies the signature. And fourth, accounting pays the postage. Honestly, it's a beautifully synchronized dance.
Which brings us to part three, mechanics and security, or, the rules of the post office. So what happens when bad actors try to rob our courier or deliver malicious packages? Well, we use the EIP 712 standard. This is absolutely crucial. It acts as an unforgeable shipping label, securely binding the user's intent to a specific forwarder contract address. This completely prevents substitution attacks. A malicious courier can't just take your signed envelope, cross out the recipient's address, and scribble in their own. The math literally will not allow it.
Plus, we use nonces. A nonce is a unique sequential number that acts as replay protection to stop duplicated execution. Think of them like numbered envelopes or a really strict logbook. This means a stressed-out relayer, or a malicious one, cannot accidentally execute your exact same transaction twice. Once envelope number 42 is processed by the clerk, any other envelope claiming to be number 42, bam, immediately rejected. No way around it.
All right, let's hit part four, real-world wallet UX. Because honestly, if the user doesn't understand what's happening, all of this clever back-end engineering is completely useless. You absolutely have to design your UX to match the back-end reality. We've got the instant relay pattern, which gives immediate submission, a short ETA, and an immediate transaction hash. But contrast that with the queued or batched pattern. This involves delayed submissions and bundled payloads. If a transaction is going to take 5 minutes to batch, you can't just show a spinning wheel without an explanation. The user will panic and close the app for sure.
We also have the sponsored policy pattern. This involves strict limits where a sponsor might only cover specific actions, like first-time onboarding, or maybe they set a token value gas cap. You must show the user these exact coverage limits before they ever click the sign button. Imagine going to a restaurant. Someone says, "Hey, I'll pay for your meal," and later you find out they only meant the appetizer. The wallet has to parse sponsor metadata and clearly render those human-friendly constraints.
So, let's summarize these wallet UX best practices. These are the absolute essential details you've got to present. Number 1, show the sponsor identity. Number 2, display the coverage limits. 3, highlight any ETAs and delays. And 4, provide clear retry and cancel paths. Doing this keeps users informed, prevents massive confusion, and will drastically reduce your post-facto support tickets.
Now, this naturally leads us to a pretty provocative question.
And really our next major engineering challenge. How do we actually bundle these transactions for maximum efficiency? Like, if a sponsor is paying for 10,000 onboarding transactions, how do we bundle those envelopes so our courier only has to make one single trip?
Well, to master those transaction bundling strategies and dive way deeper into Web3 development, make sure to visit forge.college. Until next time, I want you to ask yourself, if we can abstract away gas completely, what other fundamental Web3 frictions are just waiting to be made invisible? Keep building. Thanks for tuning into this explainer from Forge College, and we'll see you next time.